2014, Zoe and I did the 2-week Wild West tour in the USA with Eagle Rider, and soon knew we wanted to go back for more. 2 years later, we flew our own bikes across, and spent 10 weeks on our USA and Canadian adventure. We left Denver to ride in the Rocky Mountains, with Steamboat Springs in mind as our destination at the end of the day. We rode along the Trail Ridge Road inside the national park, where we had amazing views and saw rabbits, deer, bighorn sheep and some wildlife that was new to us, the yellow-bellied marmot.
We thought we might get wet today. There was a massive rain shower and thunderstorm while we were in the cafe. This morning we managed to get over the top of the Rocky Mountains National Park in the dry, but as we were coming down the hill, the heavens absolutely opened, and it probably only lasted for 20 minutes or so, but the rain was really, really heavy and quite painful on my arms. But obviously we'd got our wet weather stuff on by then, so all good.
None of my normal stuff I've been wearing is waterproof. It's the waterproof stuff that I've got at home is way too hot to wear over here. So I've got on this lovely outfit. I got rid of the boot covers because they were just annoying, so I've got wet feet.
Thankfully, we were very restricted in what we could carry with us, otherwise Allister would have bought at least one pair of cowboy boots and a Stetson or two.
After a good breakfast, which even included lots of fresh fruit, we headed off on a 300-mile get-there kind of day to Diamondville, which of course included some more unpaved road through farmland. This one was pretty easy and fast. We rode through Dinosaur National Monument, through a bit of Utah, and eventually into Wyoming, where we met a cattle rancher who described himself as the most typical Wyoming rancher we'd meet, and wanted to talk about politics and guns. He was allowed a cowboy hat. Towards the end of the day, we found ourselves riding through Glencoe. Yes, it really is called that, and yes, it really does bear some resemblance to the one in Scotland, and it was in Lincoln County. I was given strict instructions the next morning to find a famous raspberry shake shop, and then to take us to Bear Lake, so I did my best.
We started off in Wyoming this morning, we rode into Utah and we're now in Idaho. School bus. We rode around Bear Lake, which is a really turquoise blue lake that straddles Utah and Idaho. Lots and lots of wildlife there. We saw lots of birds with some cranes, and then we did a bit of a dirt road which actually went, well, it felt like we were going through the middle of the lake. It kind of lapped both sides of the road. And now we're on Highway 34, which goes from which goes from Idaho back into Wyoming again, heading back towards the Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Park. We're currently in Henry. We stopped here to have our picnic. We had leftover pizza from last night and some apples we may have borrowed from breakfast. We're at Henry General Store, which is weird because it's closed and looks like it's rickety and falling down, but there is stuff in it, like it should be open. There's also birds' nests all the way at the top. I think they're swallows. I don't really know.
I found tens, maybe hundreds, of shell cartridges in the turnout, or lay-by for the Brits, and was keen on taking some home as a souvenir. But Zoe pointed out that perhaps I might have a little explaining to do at the airport, so I left them where I found them.
Now in Teton National Park. British might say Teton because that's how it's spelt, but in American it's Teton, which rhymes with Nissan, apparently, the car manufacturer. I don't know how that works. This area has black bears, we've seen one of those before. It also has grizzly bears, mountain lions, moose, elk, bison, bobcats, a rodent thing that keeps running around the table that looks a bit like a squirrel or a chipmunk but isn't, we don't know what it is, might be a vole. Anyway, we're looking around here, and then after this we're heading towards Yellowstone before we go to Cody where we stay for the night, and then we'll be back into Yellowstone for a couple more days.
In keeping with tradition, we went to the visitor centre in Yellowstone to watch the video and then rode towards the east entrance to get to Cody, where we'd be staying for a few nights so that we could spend plenty of time in the national park.
It's like blue, green, and yellow.
Here we are back at Yellowstone, and this is apparently Blackpool. It's the geyser basin at West Thumb, our first stop on the Grand Loop today.
We dropped Zoe's bike off for a new chain and sprockets that morning and were 2 up on my bike. Yellowstone is huge, substantially bigger than Lincolnshire back home, and involves a lot of driving or riding to see it. Seeing as we were there for a few days, we went to see the famous Old Faithful Geyser, which was one of the busiest areas in Yellowstone.
Then it was off to the Grand Prismatic Spring and Midway Geyser Basin before heading back to collect my bike before closing time.
We're back from Yellowstone. I've been riding pillion with Allister all day whilst my bike was in the shop. I've got a nice shiny new chain which is under the cover now, which is looking like it's much better, don't you think?
Good morning. We're about to ride the Beartooth Pass into Yosemite National Park.
On the Beartooth Pass we saw a Triumph Tiger on British number plates, but we didn't manage to catch the rider for a chat. Soon after we entered the national park through the northeast entrance, we came across a huge herd of bison. There could have been up to 1,000 of them, and it looked like they were migrating to another part of the park, which I assume they do every year.
Traffic jams are often a welcome sight in Yellowstone. It normally means there's wildlife on or near the road, and this was no exception. Another bear.
Bison were to be a theme today, and as we rode to Mud Volcano we saw some more happily grazing by the road. We went to Norris Geezer Basin next, and then camped in Yellowstone West that night before spending another day exploring more of Yellowstone. I told you it was huge.
We're back in Yellowstone National Park. So far today we've seen a bear, which we will identify later, a stag elk, thousands of bison, and this part, which is the Mud Volcano area, stinks. National Park again today, and we've come to Artist's Pots, and this one, I quite fancy getting in this one. Don't you think it looks inviting?
Actually, a volcano.
Towards the end of our time in Yellowstone, we went to see the upper and lower Yellowstone Falls and spent time just watching the roaring water and the rainbow created in the mist.